Hi guys, welcome back. So today I've got another tutorial where we're going to be looking at creating this kind of text mask animation. As you can see when we scroll down the page, we get these kind of list items fade in. Okay, so we're using the intersection observer here, and we're just applying this kind of text reveal animation effect. So yeah, I hope you enjoy, guys. Let's get going. Thanks. Okay guys, so to get started with this project, you can see I've just got the three usual files. We have an index.html file, a style.css, and an app.js file. I've also just downloaded a font online, so this Harman semi-bold. It's a free font. If you just search for that, you should be able to find it. But if you don't have any, use your own fonts for this project, really. I just like this font for this specific project. So if we come into index.html file, I'm just going to get a boilerplate up and running, like so. And then I'm going to just link to the style.css file in the header, like so, and then in the body we'll come down and just link to the app.js file, so say script source app.js, and then in the body I'm just going to have a UL, and actually we'll just have a H1 above that. I'm just going to say welcome in here, like so, and then in the UL we're just going to have multiple list elements. So I'll just say, let me just copy this over actually just to save time. So paste that in like so. So you can see here I just got a bunch of list elements, each contain a span, and I've just got some random project names online. So it's kind of like a color. Use whatever you want. This could be like links to on your website, anything really. Okay, and that's it for our HTML file. So let's just tie that up a bit. So now, if we come to our app.js file, style.css file, sorry, and then the first thing I'm going to do is just set some root colors, okay, or some CSS variables. So I do .root, and here I'm just going to say var for variable color 1, and I'm just going to give that a color of F5E FE1. That's kind of like this beige colour or cream colour, and then underneath that I'll just say var colour 2, and we're going to give this a colour of 161616, which is a really dark kind of grey, nearly black colour. Okay, then underneath this I'm just going to add that font, so we'll say at font face, and then here I'm just going to say so it's this Harman font. I'm just going to say here font family, and here we're just going to say Harman, like so, and then underneath this I'm just going to say source, and then the URL, and then we'll just point to that fonts folder, so say ./fonts, like so. Just close this down so you can see. And I'm actually going to open this in live server just so we can see our adjustments as we go. Okay, just bring this over. Okay, so there's our page so far. And then, okay, so underneath this, the next thing I want to do here is I'm just going to set the global settings. Okay, so we'll say, we'll do the star to select all settings, and then we'll just say here margin 0, padding 0, and box size in border box. And then underneath this I'm just going to say list style of none as well, just to get rid of those bullet points next to our list items. And you can see the margins and paddings have gone as well now. And then I'm also just going to say I'll just set that font family for everything as well, so we'll say font family, and here I'm just going to say Harman, like so, and then I'll set the backup to sans serif, like so. Okay, now you can see we have that font applied. And kind of underneath this, next thing I also want to say here is I'm just going to set the color of all the text to that variable we set. So I'm just going to say variable, and I'll just say var color 1. Actually, we'll set that to 2 for the text, so it's that black color. Okay, and then underneath that, I think we'll just leave that there for now. So underneath the global settings, I'm just going to say HTML, body, and here I'm going to set the background color, and we'll set that to, again, that variable, and here this time I'm going to use that var color 1. Okay, So that nice cream background colour. And then also I want to just set the height here to 2000 pixels just so we can scroll like so. Okay, so now we have that scrollability. And then kind of underneath this, next thing I want to do is select that H1 element, so this welcome text up here, say H1, and I'm going to position that absolute, and then we'll say top 40 viewport heights, like so, and then I'm going to say a width of 100% to fill the screen, and then we'll center the text, so we'll just say text align center, and that should center it to the page. And then I'm also just going to set the font size here to 6 rem, so we'll say font size 6 rem, and then we'll also say underneath this letter spacing, just to give it just slightly 2 pixel letter spacing, doesn't make much difference, but. And then underneath this, I'm next going to select the UL, okay, so the unordered list, which is containing all these list items here, so we'll say UL, and here I'm just going to position that absolute as well, and then we'll just say right 5%, and then we'll say here top 100 viewport heights. Okay, so now we'll scroll down, there's our list, and then I'm also just going to say we'll give this list a height of 100 viewport heights as well, say 100 VH, and then underneath that I'm just going to say display flex, like so, and then I'm going to say flex direction column, because you'll see now if we display flex, you'll see they all go next to each other, so we'll just do flex direction column next, like so. And then I also just want to justify the content, okay, so say justify content, flex end. And you'll see why I'm doing that later. It's because we're going to be transforming these letters into individual span items, and when we display flex end, it'll make them all appear to the right of the page, okay. So next thing I want to do here is I'm just going to say, let's select our span elements. We'll say UL, li, and then span, and then here I'm just going to say display block, and we're displaying block because we want to perform transformations on these span elements, and then I'm just going to say line height of 4 m, like so. As you can see, they're kind of nicely spread out now, and then I'm also just going to say here font size, we'll make that 4 m as well. Okay, so that makes them nice and big now. And then underneath this, I'm also just going to say, let's just say, we'll do a text transform uppercase. So uppercase like so. So we have that nice uppercase text now. And I'm also just going to say margin of, we'll give them a margin of 0.05 rem. Like so, and I think that's pretty much it. Next thing I want to do is just say UL, li, span, and when we're going to apply the active class to these span elements, I'm just going to say transform, and then we're going to say here translate y, and then we want to translate that y to 0% to set it to the original position, and then I'm just going to say transition, we'll say 1 second, and then we'll just say ease out. Okay, to give it a nice easing animation. And what I'm going to do here, so you can see we can see our text at the moment. I'm just going in this section here, UL li span. I'm just going to transform this. Okay, so we're just going to say here transform, and we're going to say translate y, and I want to translate this by 200%. Okay, so you can see we can still see that. So what I need to do is just set the overflow here in our UL li section. So we need to do that now, sorry. We do a UL li, and here I'm just going to set the height, so say height of 4 m to match our text, and then we're going to say, again, display flex, and I'm going to set the overflow to hidden. Okay, so we shouldn't see our text anymore, because remember we're translating the text by 200 pixels down, 200% down on the translate Y, and because we've got the overflow of hidden on the parent, we can't see that text anymore. And then I'm also let's just do the background guide just so we can see what we're working with here. And then I'm just going to set, let's say a margin bottom of, I'm going to give this 0.5 rem. So that kind of space between, and then I'm also just going to say, again, justify content, flex end. Okay, so let me just, we'll take off that background color as well. Okay, so now you can see our text has gone to the right, it's aligned to the right because we're using that flex end property, okay? I think we're nearly there with the CSS. The next thing I just want to do is just say UL, and then we'll just say li hover. That's when we hover our list elements. I just want the opacity to be 0.5, and then we'll just say cursor pointer as well, as if these were links. Okay, so now you can see we get that hover effect, and then I think that should be it for now. Let's just go to our JavaScript to get this effect up and running. So if you go to our app.js file, okay, and the first thing we want to do here is get all of our list items into an array. Okay, so we'll say let list items equal, and we'll start an array, and then we'll use a spread operator here, and then we'll just say document.query selector all, and then we'll just say li for our list elements. Okay, and then what we want to do with these is the first thing we're just going to do a list items.forEach. Okay, so we'll do a for each function, and then we'll pass in each of our items, our list items. And the first thing we're going to do with these is what we need to do is we need to split all the letters up into individual spans, because we want to perform like a kind of separate animation. So actually what I will do for the time being is we'll leave that, we'll do that effect later. Let's just say for now, we'll leave that. Let's create our intersection observer. Okay, we're going to be using the intersection observer to observe the elements when they come onto our screen. Okay, so when it comes into the viewport like so, the effect will be applied. So let's just do that now. Let's create some options first for our intersection observer. So say options, and here we're just going to say equals, and the first option it takes in is the root margin we're going to be using. I'm just going to set that to -10%, and I'll explain what these values are doing later. And then the second item is the threshold. Okay, and we'll just select to 0.0, so there's 0 threshold for the time being. Okay, and you can change these to your personal taste. As I say, I'll explain these in a second. And then the next one we need to do is just instantiate an observer. Okay, so we'll say let observer, spell that right, equal new intersection observer, like so. And what that does, that the first argument that it takes in is a callback function to be triggered when the items come into the viewport. So say show item. We're going to create this function in a second. And then it also takes in options, which we created up here. So these options. Okay, so let's just do that. And then, so now let's create this show item function, okay, that we want triggered. So we'll say function show item. And here I'm just going to say, this takes in entries, okay? So the intersection observer passes in each entry that it's asked to observe. So we'll say entries here. And then for the time, let's just console log entries for now. Just show what that's doing. And then in this for each function down below on our list items, I'm just going to say observer.observe the item. Okay, so each individual item that the for each method passes in, like so. So now if we go to our console, you can see we have our intersection of our items, and you'll see we have the main things we're interested in here is the is intersecting Boolean value, which is currently false. When that comes onto the screen, it will change to true. Okay, so you'll see here. If we click into this, you can see the intersecting is set to true. That means the element is on our viewport. And we also have this target as well, which actually gives you the actual HTML element. Okay, so that's all well and good. So now what we need to do here is I'm just going to come into our show item function, You can get rid of that console log. And here we're just going to do another for each. So we'll say entries dot for each, like so. And then I'm going to say for each entry. And then we can do a callback here. We're going to say here, if the entry dot is intersecting. Remember we had that for the observe. We have this is intersecting, which is it's a value. So it's either it's true if it's in the viewport or false if it's not in the viewport. So intersecting. Then what we want to do here is I'm just going to say entry dot target, and then we want to grab the child element. Okay, so you'll see here. I don't think it's actually console anymore. Here you'll see here the target. If we open up the target element, you'll see the child element is the span. Okay, so we want to apply the effect to this span element. So what we do here is just say dot children, and then we want to get the first child element, so 0, and then we're going to say dot class list, like so, dot add, and then we'll just say we want to apply the active class to our span elements. Okay, and what I want to do here as well is come back to our CSS, and we'll just add that transformation, so make it 200% on the y-axis. And now when we scroll down, you'll see now we get that kind of fading effect. Okay, so let's try that again. So when we scroll down, okay, so when our items come into the viewport, you get that kind of animation. Okay, so that's kind of the basic kind of text reveal animation. I should take one step further. I want to just kind of apply these animations separately, okay, to each individual letter. So what I'm going to do here is, let's make this. So in our for each item down below here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new string for every single list item. Okay, so say let new string equal, and that's just going to be a blank string for now. And then here, I'm just going to say let item text. And here we're just going to say let equals the item that's passed in. And then we're going to say dot children 0 to get that span element again. Okay, and then we're just going to say inner text. We're going to take the inner text. And then what I want to do with the inner text is split it. Okay, so let's use a split function just to split up the individual letters. So now, if I console.log item text, and then if we come into our console here, you should see now that we have, for each individual item, we get the letters in a separate individual letters in their own array. Okay, so we have this aqua gold, and you can see all the letters are split into separate segments of the array. So what we're going to do with this is after let's give it that console log, I'm just going to take that new item text array that we've created, and I'm going to map it. Okay, and then we're going to map each individual letter, and here we're just going to say, we're going to take that new string, pass in, that we created above, so say new string plus equals, and here we're going to say if the letter that's passed in equals a space, that means a space between the two words, do a question mark, then here we're just going to say we want to do a backtick here. I'm just going to say span, so we want to add a span element, an individual span, and then we're going to say give this a class of gap, like so. And then I'm going to say after this, we'll close the span, like so. And then otherwise, then we'll just say, we'll create another span element. And here we'll just add in the letter, so in a template literal. Okay, and then we'll close off the span, like so. Okay, so what we're saying here, we've got this new string that we created above, which is an empty string. And then we're just mapping each letter of the item text array which we create for each of our individual list elements. And then we're adding to the new string, okay? So we're saying if the letter's equal to a space, so you remember we had the space in between aqua gold, yellow space brass. We're saying we're creating a span with a class of gap, okay? I need to close that. Yeah, close that off. Otherwise, we're saying add a span with the letter involved, okay? So then underneath this, next thing we want to do here is I'm just going to say, we're going to get our item, and then we're going to set the inner.html equals that new string. Okay, like so. And so now you'll see, now we're only getting the animation applied to the first span element. Okay, so what we need to do is come back up to our observer up here. And here we're just going to say, we're in our, we're going to add this if statement here. The first we need to do is say let letters equal, and we're going to use the array again. We'll do spread operator, and we're going to take the entry dot target, so the target element, and then we're going to say dot query selector all. We want to query selector all of the span elements within our target, okay? And then what we're going to say here is then we're going to go letters dot for each, and then we're going to say we're going to pass in the letter as well as the index, like so. And then here we're just going to say we're going to do a set timeout function, set timeout, and then I'm going to say letter dot class list dot add, and then we're going to add the active class like so. And then for the time here, I'm just going to take the index value and times that by 10 milliseconds. And now you can see we get that kind of nice fading effect for each of our letters, okay? So you see when we come down, we can slow this down actually as well, just so you can see the effect properly. So if we take that, you can see we kind of get that. They come in like it's all animated one after the other. But I kind of like this 10 milliseconds. I think that works better. Okay, so now if you scroll down again, and that looks okay to me. Just to show you what these root margins do. So if I set this to 0, this means, so we're saying the root margin was minus 10%. That means the margin would be negative 10% of the screen. So the effect would be applied when the items come into the viewport 10%, in the 10% to the bottom of the screen, okay? So if I set that to 0%, you'll see the animations are applied as soon as the item comes into the viewport, like so, right down the bottom. Okay, and we have a 0 threshold there. If you set that to 1, that means the whole item will have to be into the viewport to apply the animation. Okay, so that's just what those kind of thresholds and root margins are doing. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. What I've realised here as well is we haven't got our space in between the words anymore, and that's why we apply this kind of gap class to our span for each of these letters. So I need to come to my style.css. I'm just going to say .gap, and here I'll just say a width of, let's just say 1 rem. And now you can see we get a space between our letters because we've applied like a width between for these gap span elements. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I'm going to leave it there. I think this is quite a nice effect when you scroll down. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Give me a question. If you have any questions, give me a comment and I'll try my best to answer. I also think this does look better as well if we kind of change these around. So if I just make that one, obviously you could have like a dark light theme here as well. But yeah, that looks pretty smart to me as well. Kind of like that. Let's just yeah, that's how you get this kind of revealing text mask animation. So yeah, guys, as I say, hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thanks.